I don't know where my other copy went. But anyways, I rank this as my first most difficult book for Eve. The most heart-wrenching book for Eve is New York to Dallas. And we've got a long ways to go before we get there. This is the second heart-wrenching book for Dallas. And welcome to the D. Louise book series. I'm Christina K-R-S-T-I-N-A. This is where I read books, talk about books, no special effects, no theme music, none of that fancy stuff going on here. And we are going through I will put the review, my original review that happened a while ago, in the description section. Because these are my comfort series, and I like to read this entire series at least once a year. And I read it for the channel already, and I was trying to figure out how I could do it again, because if I'm going to read a book, I'm going to talk to you about this book. So I needed to figure out, I was like, you know what? We're just going to read it. We're just going to read it, and we're going to talk about it. So this is the D. Louise book series, and I'm Christina K-R-S-T-I-N-A. This is where I read books, talk about books, no special effects, no theme music, none of that fancy stuff going on here. And if you could go ahead and subscribe and hit the thumbs up, I would appreciate it greatly. But we are talking about Book 8, Conspiracy in Death. And like I said, this is one of the more difficult books for Eve. We also get 4 new recurring characters. And these are 4 significant recurring characters. We have Rourke, the husband. Eve is a lieutenant in the New York Police and Security Department. Somerset is the major domo for Rourke. Peabody is Eve's assistant, now later partner. We've been introduced to McNabb. He works in EDD with Feeney, Eve's former mentor. He's now captain. McNabb will eventually, after some torture to the readers, become Peabody's significant other. Mavis is Eve's best friend, and Leonardo is her significant other. We have Dr. Mirror, the shrink. We haven't seen too much, I don't think we've heard too much of Dr. Mirror, Mr. Mirror yet. We will see him greatly later on. Whitney, her boss, and Morris, the coroner. His role will expand later on. And Dickhead, Berensky, the forensics guy, the computer analysis of chemicals and stuff like that, the CSI guy. But we've got this case, and most of it I tried to not spoil it too much, but these are all character spoils. These are all 100% character spoils. Someone is killing the homeless and ripping out their organs. And Eve has got to figure out who is doing this and why they are doing this. So, the first one, here it is. The first one is in the morning and it's cold. Most of the time, we have a February-ish book. Sometimes we get a summer book. And then the next one is usually a Thanksgiving or a Christmas book. It's a January, February, a summer book, and a fall-winter book. So this might be January-ish. Because we just had the holiday in death. So this has got to be January, February-ish. And Eve gets called out in the middle of the night. And And Eve thought if she hadn't been on top of the rotation for such calls on this miserable morning, she'd still be in her nice warm bed with her nice warm husband. Probably some jittery rookie hoping for a serial killer, she muttered. Beside her, Peabody yawned hugely. I'm really just extra weight here. From under her ruler straight dark bangs, she sent Eve a hopeful look. You could just drop me off at the closest transpo stop and I could be home in bed in 10 minutes. If I suffer, you suffer. That makes me feel so loved, Dallas. Eve snorted and shot Peabody a grin. No one, she thought, was sturdier, no one was more dependable than her aide. Even with the early call, Peabody was pressed and polished in her winter weight uniform. The buttons gleaming, the hard black cop shoes shined. In her square face framed by her dark bowl-cut hair, her eyes might have been a little sleepy, but they would see what Eve needed her to see. Didn't you have some big deal last night? Peabody asked her. Yeah, in East Washington. Rourke had his dinner dance thing for some fancy charity. Save the moles or something. Food, enough food to feed every sidewalk sleeper on the Lower East Side for a year. Gee, that's tough on you. I bet you had to get all dressed up in some beautiful gown, shuttled down on Rourke's private transpo, and chucked down champagne. Eve only lifted a brow at Peabody's dust-dry tone. Yeah, that's about it. They both knew the glamorous side of Eve's life since Rourke had come into it was both a puzzlement and a frustration to her. And then I had to dance with Rourke a lot. Was he wearing a tux? Peabody had seen Rourke in a tux. The image of it was etched in her mind like acid on glass. Oh, yeah. Until Eve mused they'd gotten home and she'd ripped it off him. He looked every bit as good out of a tux as in one. Man, Peabody. You know, a lot of women would get pissed off having their husband star in their aide's purient little fantasies. But you're bigger than that, Lieutenant. I like that about you. Eve grunted, rolled her stiff shoulders. It was her own fault that lust had gotten the better of her and they'd only managed 3 hours of sleep. Duty was duty and she was on it. So, Eve gets to the murder scene. And now to review, Eve said coldly. You call in a homicide. You drag my butt out of bed. You damn well have the scene secured and have your report ready for me when I get here. You don't stand here like a couple of morons sucking your thumbs. You're cops, for God's sakes. Act like cops. Yes, sir, Lieutenant. This came in a wavery voice from the youngest of the team. He was hardly more than a boy, and the only reason Eve had pulled her verbal punch. Her partner, however, wasn't a rookie, and she earned one of Eve's frigid stares. Yes, sir, she said, between her teeth, and the lively resentment in her tone had Eve angling her head. Do you have a problem, Officer Bowers? No, sir. Her face was the color of aged cherrywood, with her eyes a striking contrast of pale, pale blue. She kept her dark hair short under her regulation cap. There was a button missing on her standard issue coat, and her shoes were dull and scuffed. Eve could have poked her about it, but decided being stuck in a miserable job was some excuse not to buff up for the day. Good. Officer TRUEHEART, my aide will show you the proper way to secure the scene. See that you pay attention. Yes, sir. TRUEHEART. Oh, you gotta love TRUEHEART. Peabody, at the single word, her field kit was in her hand. Show me what we got here, Bowers. Indigent, male Caucasian, goes by the name of Snooks. This is his crib. So they investigate the crime scene. And then Eve gets on her because she goes, You call the ME? Eve asked as she clear-coated her hands and boots. First on scene's discretion, Bowers said primly, with the malice straight in her eyes. I opted to leave that decision for homicide. For God's sake, is he dead or not? Disgusted, Eve moved forward, bending a bit to weep back the curtain. Bowers is, Snooks is dead. He's missing a little few organs. So they have some issues here. Then we even have some more issues. The hate in Bowers' pale eyes was a puzzle. It was much too vicious, she decided, to be the result of a simple and deserving dressing down by a superior officer. It gave her an odd urge to brace for attack, to slide a hand down to her weapon. Instead, she lifted her eyebrows, waited a beat. Your report, officer? Nobody saw anything, nobody knows anything, Bowers snapped. That's the way it is with these people. They stay in their holes. Though Eve had her eyes on Bowers, she caught the slight movement from the rookie. Following instinct, she dug in her pocket and pulled out some loose credits. Get me some coffee, Officer Bowers. Disdain turned so quickly to insulted shock, Eve had to work hard to hold off a grin. Get you coffee? That's right, I want coffee. She grabbed Bowers' hand, dumped the credits into it. So does my aide. You know the neighborhood. Run over to the nearest 24/7 and get me some coffee. TRUEHEART's lowest rank. Was I talking to TRUEHEART, Peabody? No, Lieutenant. I believe you were addressing Officer Bowers. As Peabody didn't like the woman's looks either, she smiled. I take cream and sugar. The lieutenant goes for black. I believe there's a 24/7 one block over. Shouldn't take you long. Uh-oh. She's really pushing it here, isn't she? Bowers stood another moment, then turned on her heel and stalked off. She muttered bitch came clearly on the cold wind. Golly, Peabody, Bowers just called you a bitch. I really think she meant you, sir. Yeah, Eve's grin was fierce. You're probably right. So, TRUEHEART, spill it. Sir? His already pale face whitened even more at being directly addressed. What do you think? What do you know? I don't. When he glanced nervously at Bowers, stiff and retreating back, Eve stepped into his line of vision. Her eyes were cool and commanding. Forget her. You're dealing with me now. I want your report on the canvas. His Adam Apple Bob. No one in immediate area admits to having witnessed any disturbance in the vicinity or visitors to the victim's crib during the time in question. And it's just that I was going to tell Bowers, he continued in a rush, but she cut me off. Tell me. It's about the gimp. He had his crib on this side just down from Snooks as long as I've known had the beat. It's only been a couple of months, but... You patrolled this area yesterday? Yes, sir. There was a crib by Snooks? Yes, sir. Like always, now he's got it on the other side of the street, way at the end of the alley. Did you question him? No, sir. He's zoned. We couldn't roust him, and Bowers said it wasn't worth the trouble. Anyway, because he's stone drunk. How long have you been out of the academy, TRUEHEART? 3 months. Yes, ma'am. Somebody's tapping me. Yes, ma'am. Sandy? Sandy, do you want to come up here? Come here. Come here. Come here. What? Well, you came to me. So we were talking to TRUEHEART. So she's gonna call for a wagon and she's gonna have Gimp taken to Central, and she wants TRUEHEART to stay with him. That means he's got to abandon Bowers, and he's afraid that Bowers is going to be upset about it. And Eve says she'll take care of Bowers for him. He gave us a that was really sweet, Peabody said when they were back in the vehicle with their cups of hot, horrible coffee. Don't start, Peabody. Come on, Dallas. You gave the guy a nice break. He gave us a potential witness, and it was another way to burn that idiot Bowers' ass. She smiled thinly. Next chance you get, Peabody, do a run at her. I'd like to know everything I can about people who want to rip the skin off my face. I'll take care of it when we're back to Central. You want a hard copy? Yeah. Run TRUEHEART too, just for form. Wouldn't mind running him, Peabody wiggled her eyebrows. He's cute. You're pathetic, and you're too old for him. I can't have more than a couple, maybe 3 years on him, Peabody said. And some guys prefer a more experienced woman. I thought you were still tight with Charles. We date. Peabody lifted her shoulders, still uncomfortable discussing the particular man with Eve. But we're not exclusive. Tough to be exclusive with a licensed companion. In this age, in this book series, Charles Monroe is a licensed companion. And are you back again? They base it, street workers are one level, and then they go up in height, up in rank, whatever they call it, for pay. How much they can charge and how much they will do for additional funds. But they have to work through I have no idea how it works. It comes up in the books occasionally. Are you back again? What? Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. You the one that came here. You the one that came up here. Don't you want to read the book? You want to sit in your sister's bed? Oh no! That's Smokey's bed! I can't be seen in Smokey's bed! No way! Alright, so they head back to Central. And poor TRUEHEART participates in the interview with Gimp, and he's so happy that he was allowed to participate in the interview with Gimp. He's so cute. Okay, you know Officer TRUEHEART here, right? Yeah. Suddenly the beaten face glowed with a smile as pure as a baby's. Hi! You slip me some credits, I could get some soup. TRUEHEART blushed painfully, shifted on his regulation shoes. I guess you bought brew with it. Don't know. The audiobooks, the guy's like, don't know. Maybe. Don't know. So he participates in the interview. They get some information about the people that did this thing. You did a good job with him, TRUEHEART. He blushed again, and while she found the trait a bit endearing, she hoped he'd learn to control it. The other cops would eat him alive before the bad guys had a chance for a nibble. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you giving me a chance to help with him. You found him, Eve said simply. I figure you've got plans for yourself outside of Homicide Light. This time he squared his shoulders. I want a detective shield when I've earned it. It was rare to find a uniform rookie without the particular aspiration, but she nodded. You can start earning it by sticking. I could and would be willing to put in a plug for your transfer. See that you get another beat and another trainer. But I'm going to ask you to stay where you are. You've got good eyes, TRUEHEART. They're gonna uh I could and would be willing to put you in a plug for your transfer. See that you got another beat and another trainer. But I'm going to ask you to stay where you are. You got good eyes, TRUEHEART. And I'd like you to use them until we close this case. Yes, are you back again? What? Come here. Sandy. What? Come over here. You keep coming over here and interrupting me. She's sitting there like this. Yes. Can I help you? Sandy. What do you want, Miss Sandy? Mommy's reading. You can come up and read with me if you want. Come over here. Sandy. Okay. She wants him to stick with Bowers until the case is over, and then she's gonna do something for him, but she really doesn't tell him that situation. So then she goes to see Rourke. It would have been more logical for her to hunt up Mira first. As a psychiatrist, a medical doctor, a criminologist, Mira would be a valuable source on the case. But Eve drove up down to the shimmering spire of a building that was Rourke's New York headquarters. She supposed it was inevitable that his name would pop up in connection with so many of her cases, but she didn't have to like him. She slipped her vehicle into the space Rourke had reserved for her in the multi-level garage. The first time she'd come here, not quite a year before, she hadn't had such privileges, nor had her voice and palm prints been programmed onto the security system of the private elevator. Before she entered the lobby with its acres of tiles, its bank of flowers, its moving map and screens, and had escorted to his offices to interrogate him over a murder. Now the computerized voice greeted her by name, wished her well, and told her as she stepped in that Rourke would be informed of her visit. Rourke always knows. The minute Eve pulls in that garage, he knows she's in the room. He gets an alert. When the doors opened, Rourke's assistant was waiting with a smile. As always, she was perfectly groomed, her snow white hair slicked. She becomes a major character in future books. She's got a little role. But there will be one book where Carol, I believe that's it. Caro. Rourke calls her Caro. Has a major role in a couple of the books. Lieutenant, how nice to see you again. Rourke's in a meeting. He asked if you'd mind waiting in the office just a few moments. Sure, fine. Can I get you anything while you wait? She led Eve through the glass breezeway where New York rushed by 60 stories below. If you hadn't had lunch, I can shift Rourke's next appointment to accommodate you. The quiet difference always made her feel stupid. A flaw, Eve thought in herself. No, this shouldn't take long. Thanks. Just let me know if I can do anything for you. Discreetly, she closed the doors and left Eve alone. And then she talks to Rourke about the case. Then, as she's leaving, so what were you buying? Australia, he said, then laughed when she gaped at him. Just a small piece of it. Delighted with her reaction, he yanked her close for a quick kiss. Christ, I adore you, Eve. Yeah, well, good. It's continually left her hot and loose to hear it. To know it, I gotta go. Would you like me to see what I can find out about your organ researcher, Drake? That's my job, and I know how to do it. It would be really nice if you didn't get mixed up in this one. Just go buy the rest of Australia or something. I'll see you at home. Lieutenant. He turned to his desk, opened a drawer. Knowing how she worked, he tossed her an energy bar. Your lunch. She's like, oh, thanks. So then we have a short, brief meeting with Whitney. The first of a couple of different cult ones. A problem with your equipment, Lieutenant. She'd been cursing and hitting it. Her computer. She hissed, set her teeth, and straightened. It was a rare for Commander Whitney to visit her office, and not a happy moment to have him do so when she was beating up her departmental property. Respectfully, sir, this unit sucks. It might have been a smile that fitted into his dark eyes, but she couldn't be sure. I suggest you contact maintenance, Dallas. Maintenance commander is full of morons, and the budget is full of holes. He stepped in, shut the door at his back, which made Eve's stomach jitter. He glanced around, then shook his head. Your rank entitles you to an office, Dallas, not a dungeon. She likes her office. This will become a major bone of contention for the readers. You gotta get over it. 1. Eve likes her office and she does not want to move. She's entitled to a bigger office. She does not want to move. She likes its location. She likes that it's small. 2. Her visitor's chair is painful to anybody that sits in it. She doesn't want visitors. She doesn't want anybody in her office. And as much as you say, but if your higher ranking people come in, like Whitney comes in, or Nadine comes in, or these people come in, it would be only courteous to have a decent chair. So when certain people comes in, Eve sacrifices her chair, and she goes sits in the visitor's chair or sits on the corner of the desk. But she refuses to get rid of the visitor's chair, and she refuses to change offices. And it will take about 35 books to get a new office at the house. But anyways, we were hoping that would give us hope for the office at the work. So, you caught a homicide earlier this morning. Yes, sir, the victim has just been identified. I will be notifying next of kin. When I can drag the data out of that heap, I'll have an updated report for you by the end of the day. I have a report from the first officer on scene on my desk now. You and Bowers appear to have bumped heads. I came down on her, sir. She deserved it. She's filed a complaint that you used abusive and inappropriate language. When Eve rolled her eyes, he did smile. You and I both know that kind of complaint is no more than a nuisance and generally makes the complaint look like a soggy spine fool. However, she also claims that she observed your work on scene as sloppy and careless, that you misused her trainee and threatened her with physical harm. Eve felt the blood begin to sizzle under her skin. Peabody recorded the on-scene investigation. I'll have her copy it to your desk. I'll need that to dismiss the complaint officially. Unofficially, I'm fully aware it's bullshit. There were 2 chairs. Because both of them were battered and creaky, Whitney gave them a dubious look before settling into one. I'd like to hear your take on this account. And she gives her account of what happened. Wait a second, I gotta get it. She's sitting at my feet. I'm sorry, Sini. I know. She wants Daddy. She's patiently waiting for Daddy. Sandy's Daddy's couch. I don't know where my kid is. She's in her bed across town. Hey, Smoke! I need a co-host. I'm being ignored. Okay, so they talk about the Bauer situation. And I don't believe in running to a superior officer or filing papers over a minor incident between cops. The ranking officer on scene had not secured the area properly upon my arrival. She was appropriately chastised about the lack of proper procedure. Officer Bowers displayed a marked tendency toward insubordination, which was dealt with again, in my opinion, appropriately. On his own, her trainee indicated to me that on previous scans of the area, there had been another crib besides the victim, which had since that day moved. And she tells him the rest of it. That was the case. So I don't want to spoil too much plotline. So then she's at home, and she's talking to Rourke about the situation. Uh, Bowers from 162 filed a complaint against me after I gave her a wrist slap for sloppy work. Over 10 years on the force, I've never had an official complaint on my record. She's very upset that she has a complaint on her record. Whether her record is perfectly clean and she likes it that way. So, she tells Rourke about it. Then we get a very brief appearance, the first one of the book, from Baxter. Baxter is one of the officers in her department. Hey, Dallas. Baxter, one of the detectives who most enjoyed razzing her, sent her a wink and a grin. Hope you kick her ass. It was, Eve knew, a show of support. Though it cheered her, she shrugged and kept moving. A few other comments were tossed out from desks and cubicles, all running on the same theme. The first order of business when a finger was pointed at one of their own was to break the finger. Dallas, Ian McNabb, up-and-coming detective assigned to the Electronics Detective Division, loitered outside Peabody's cubicle. He was pretty as a picture with long golden hair braided back, 6 silver dangles in his left ear, and a cheerful smile on his face. Things slow in EDD, McNabb? Never. He flashed his grin. I just did a search and run for one of your boys here. Thought I'd harass Peabody before I headed back to where real cops work. Would you get this pimple off my butt, Lieutenant? Peabody complained, and she did indeed look harassed. I haven't touched her butt. Yet, McNabb says. Irritating Peabody was one of his favorite pastimes. Thought you could use a little e-work on this problem you've got. We'll be able to read between the lines. Eve lifted a brow. He was offering to bypass channels and dig into Bowers. I'm handling. Thanks. I need Peabody. McNabb's shoe. Your call. Catch you later, she-buddy. Alright. Then, she talks with Mira, our shrink, and, Eve, I heard about this difficulty you're having with one of the uniforms. I'm sorry for it. It doesn't amount to anything, Eve said. This was after all Mira. It pissed me off. She's a sloppy cop with an attitude, and now she's put a blotch on my record. I know how much that record means to you, Mira leaned forward, touching her hand to Eve. You could know that the higher you rise and the more your reputation shines, the more a certain type of person will want to tarnish it. This won't, I can't say much, as is privilege, but I will tell you that this particular officer has a reputation for frivolous complaints, and it is not taken seriously in most cases. And they discuss Bowers more and more. Then, Eve always has a horrible looking car that is always in need of maintenance, and it will take until promises and death to get the one we want her to have. But it will take about 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. No, kidding. I'm exaggerating that many. I forget how many. We'll have to keep count. There was one in a book or two ago, but there'll be more. So they go to the she's going to investigate a scene, and she threatens. She picks one of the guys on the street, and she says, "I'm leaving my car here. I want it in one piece when I get back." She activated all the anti-theft and vandalism alarms and turns, and stepped out and chose her mark. He was a lanky, mean-eyed, and sipping mechanically from a brown blue bottle as he leaned against a scarred steel wall, decorated with various suggestions of sexual activity. As Peabody fought to keep her heart from blocking her throat, Eve strode up to him, leaned in his face. You see that car? Looks like a cop bitch car to me. That's right. And if I come back and see that nobody's messed with it, cop bitch, Someone's messed with it. This cop bitch is going to kick your balls into your throat, then tie them around your neck and choke you with it. You got that? Good. Jesus, Dallas, why'd you do that? Because now he's got an investment in making sure we got transpo when we leave. Alright. Let's see. Then she has a scene. They were investigating a person in a dangerous environment. The muscles in Peabody's gut didn't unknot until they were back in their vehicle and 3 blocks east. Well, that was fun, she said in a bright voice. Next, let's find some sharks and go swimming. You held, Peabody. I was scared right down to my toes. That's because you're not stupid. If you were stupid, you wouldn't be riding with me. So they discussed the case. I thought that was cute. So then we have a little she gets bruised. She got bruised in that incident. And she complains about someone stealing her candy. And then Rourke notices her bruise on the face, and they have a little love situation going there. So then she took them all home with her, opting to work there until Rourke got back from New LA. Somerset didn't disappoint this time, but slipped into the foyer moments after she came through the door. Since you're quite late, Lieutenant, and you didn't see fit to notify me of your plans, I assume you've already had your evening meal. She hadn't eaten since the chewy bar she scavenged, but only jerked her shoulders as she shrugged out of her jacket. I don't need you to fix my dinner, Ace. That's fortunate. He watched her sling her jacket over the newel post. Because I have no intention of doing so since you refused to keep me informed of your schedule. And on the audios, it's really, really weird how he says schedule. Your job doesn't concern me. This household does. I've added the AMA fundraiser to your calendar. You'll be expected to be ready and presentable, if that's possible, by 7:30 on Friday. Keep your bony fingers out of my calendar. Rourke requested I make the notation and remind you of the engagement. Pleased, he smiled. Her and Somerset just go on it. Alright, so then Rourke comes home and she's had a bad dream, so he rescues her from the dream. Alright, we don't need that much. Alright. Then Don Webster comes to visit her. And Don Webster is another one of our new recurring characters. We get 4 new recurring characters in this book. We only saw Baxter for a little bit. Well, we'll see him again later. But it's Trueheart, Baxter, Don Webster, and we haven't met. We'll meet the 4th one in a little bit. As her plans had been to dive straight into work, Eve wasn't pleased to see IAB waiting in her office. She wouldn't have been pleased in any case. Get out of my chair, Webster. He kept his seat, turned his head, and flashed her a smile. She'd known Don Webster since her early days at the academy. They had a one-night stand. One night and one night only. And when Rourke finds out about it, he will deck Webster. Hey, Dallas, looking good. Get out of my chair. she repeated and walked straight to her auto shelf for coffee. I was hoping we could keep this friendly. I never feel friendly when the rat squad's in my office. He hadn't changed much, she noted. His face was keen and narrow, his eyes cool and pleasant. He wore the boxy black suit that was IAB's unofficial uniform. When the complaint came down, I asked to take it. I thought I could make it easier. I'm not a whole lot interested in easy. I don't have time for this, Webster. I've got a case to close. You're going to have to make time. The more you cooperate, the less time you'll have to make. You know that complaint's bullshit. Sure I do. He smiled again and sent a single dimple winking his left cheek. The legends of your coffee have reached the lofty plains of IAB. So he wants a cup of coffee, so she gives him a cup of coffee. You were a pretty good street cop, Webster. Why'd you transfer to IAB? 2 reasons. First, it's the most direct route to administration. I never wanted the streets, Dallas. I like the view from the tower. And reason number 2, wrong cops piss me off. It lives up to the hype. My personal business doesn't change that. It's still the job. Yeah, I figured. I didn't take this complaint just for old times' sake, Dallas. We didn't have enough old times to generate a sake. Maybe you didn't. You're a good cop, Dallas. She smudged my record, only on paper. I'd like you, Dallas, always did. So I'm stepping out of procedure to tell you to warn you she wants your blood. What the hell for, Dallas? For. Because I slapped her down over sloppy work? It goes deeper than that. You don't even remember her, do you, from the academy? Well, it turns out that Eve had Bowers was in her academy class, and Bowers is pissed off that Eve has grown in the ranks while Bowers is still on the street. So she hates Eve for that. Then we meet Louise DiMatto. We first encounter Louise DiMatto at her clinic, and they talk to her about the case. The better part is the second scene with her. But we first meet her early on, and Eve talks to her about she needs someone to consult with her on a case, and she's going to get with her later. And then Peabody and Eve have a rare hot dog lunch on the street. Sometimes you miss those. I miss New York food so much. Kaiser roll, a real pizza, real Chinese, real potato salad, leaf cookies, King Cullen's maple walnut cake. Every time we go home, and I can still think of New York as home. Gain about 10 pounds. They just don't have that stuff here. Then she talks to Nadine. Nadine first is our Channel 75 reporter who will eventually move up in the ranks. She's also a good friend of Eve's. Want a one-on-one, Nadine? Dallas? Nadine's foxy face glowed with a smile. What do I have to do for it? Just your job. I've got a homicide sidewalk sleeper. Hold it. No good. We did a feature last month on sleepers. They freeze, they get sliced. We do our public interest bit twice a year. It's too soon for another. And then she explains the situation to Nadine and gets Nadine's interest in it. Then they go visit this other person. All right. Then Eve decides that party that Somerset mentioned to her the other day is a party full of medical peeps. It's a charity thing. So Eve decides to go. And she runs into Mavis Freestone, her best friend. Mavis waved a jubilant hand that was studded with rings on every finger. Dallas, this is so mag. I didn't think you'd show. Wait till Leonardo sees you. He's back in the dressing area, having a real case of nerves. I told him to take a chill pill or something. I swear he's just going to woof all over everybody. Hey, Rourke! Before Eve could speak, Mavis had leaped over to hug Rourke. Man, do you two look frigid. Have you had a drink yet? The tornadoes are killers. I've had 3. They seem to agree with you, Rourke says. Um, so they have a really good conversation with Mavis. And she gets some really good information for some of the people there. And she really doesn't like socializing. Eve hates socializing. She'd rather be an interrogation or with chemi heads in a street but rather than part. And we went through that with Holiday and Death. Although that was her friends. This is a bunch of strangers, a very, very rich strangers. And Eve will never get used to the fact that she's got money, but she will never, ever, ever. Well, I should take that back because we'll do it in a chapter. Um, so later on, Eve talks with Mira about Dr. Louise to get a little background information on her. Then, we talk to Nadine again. About the case and her interview. And then Eve gets a warning message from some unknown person that if she continues in this case, she and her husband will be terminated. Then it has snowed 2 feet in New York, and her and Rourke have their very first snowball fight. It's just awesome. A boy needs his dreams, darling. He took the snowball in the center of his shoulder blades and turned around with a wolfish smile. I was hoping you'd do that. Now you've shed first blood, and they start having a snowball fight. Then she encounters Bowers again. And TRUEHEART. And they have another incident again. So then after this incident with Bowers, again, Whitney has to step in again. You couldn't have handled it differently. Biting back a retort, Eve snatched her bag and pulled out a disc. Sir, this is a copy of the record from the crime scene. You look at it and then tell me if I could or should have handled it differently. Sit down, Dallas. Sir, if I'm to be reprimanded for doing my job, I prefer to be reprimanded while on my feet. I don't believe I have reprimanded you, Lieutenant. Bowers had already filed another complaint before this morning's little incident. She claims that you contacted her at home Saturday evening and threatened her with physical harm. Commander, I have not contacted Bowers at home or anywhere else. It was difficult that she kept her eyes flat and her voice cool. If and when I've threatened her after provocation, it's been face to face and on the record. She introduced a copy of a link log on which caller identifies herself as you. My voice print is on record. I requested the log be compared with the print from the link log. Good, Dallas, sit down. I have no doubt the prints won't match, just as I have no doubt that Bowers will continue to make trouble for you. I want to assure you the department will handle this and her. Permission to speak frankly, sir. Of course. She shouldn't be on the street. She shouldn't be in uniform. She's dangerous, Commander. Not just a personal jab, it's a professional opinion. And he agrees with her. So then they talk about the case again. And then we have McNabb and Feeney helping Eve with the case. And Peabody shows up, and McNabb is so jealous of Charles. Now, it won't be confirmed till much later. But this is a small spoiler. Peabody is not sleeping with Charles. It's 100% platonic, just friendship. But Peabody doesn't tell anybody. And Ian is eaten away by the fact that Peabody is with Charles. He doesn't know that Peabody is not sleeping with Charles, that it's just a platonic thing. But Peabody's not going to tell him. So how's Charles? She counted to 10, then replied, Charles is fine, and it's none of your business. Now move your skinny ass. McNabb merely sighed, rubbed his sore gut. You sure do it for me, she-buddy. Christ knows why. And he admits it right there, but it goes, she doesn't see it. She doesn't hear it. It goes over her head. Alright, so then, Webster comes and sees her again. What do you want, Webster? You keep showing up. I have going to call my advocate. Won't be a bad idea. You've got another complaint against me. It's bogus. Have you run the voice prints? You know me. I didn't make crank calls. She pushed herself out of the chair. Until that moment, she didn't realize how much rage she'd been chained up. It roared through her, ripped at her throat until the lack of something better. She grabbed a coffee mug off her desk and heaved it against the wall. So, they're running the voice print. So he talks to her again, and Webster tries to talk her down. So then we get word that Bowers has been murdered, and Eve is the prime suspect. And because Eve is the prime suspect, she must surrender her weapon and her badge. And it just kills Eve. It just absolutely 100% kills her inside. So Whitney takes her badge. Let's see, where is it now? I know it's here somewhere. So, Eve hands over the case to Feeney. And, I have to go, she repeated. She looked at Feeney with eyes dazed with shock. I can't stay here. I'll take you, Dallas. Let me take you. She looked at Peabody, shook her head. No, you're with Feeney now. I can't stay here. She bolted. So she leaves, and Peabody alerts Rourke to the situation. Rourke stood in the cold, helpless, and waited for Eve to come home. Word had come through in the middle of his delicate negotiations with a pharmaceutical company on Taurus 2. He intended to buy them out, revamp the organization, and link it with his own company based on Taurus 1. He had cut off without hesitation the instant he received the transmission from Peabody. The tearful explanation from the habitually stalwart cop had shaken him. There had only been one thought: to get home, to be there with Eve. And then they allow Eve a few days, some hours, to go through the motions of feeling really angry, feeling really depressed, want to hide under the covers situation, going through all that. And then I just want to do this last part. Baxter she has Feeney and Peabody handle the case for her, and Mavis comes by, and Mira comes by, and all that stuff, and Eve has nightmares and stuff. But later on, her and Rourke talk about her options. She could come work for him. He could give her head of security anywhere she wanted. He lays this all out for her. They have plans. He's trying to get her riled up. He's trying to get her to fight for what she wants. He's trying to get her woe is me, get her off the woe is me and move forward on that. So those are all really good conversations. But then we have this last one. And then Baxter comes by to do the interview for the murder investigation. And then a point of contention with Eve and Rourke is the money situation. There'll be a couple really good big fights about it later on, and Rourke will try. It'll happen a lot often, but there will finally be a book where he goes, "Look, I don't want my wife on the street without a couple of dollars in her pocket." And she's doing this IOUs. She just hasn't hit the cash machine yet. She's getting her salary. It's always been a point of contention. Before she was paying rent and water and sewer and electricity and food and all that kind of stuff for herself. So now she's getting a cop salary and she has none of those expenses. But she uses a lot of the money for streetwalkers and LCs and homeless people and snitches and stuff like that. But she just hasn't been to the cash machine yet. And she has this big argument with Rourke that she needs to have at least a few dollars in her pocket. And they have this big scene about it. But they're going through the list of stuff. And Rourke explains to her that he set up, when they got married, one of the things of their marriage was that he set up a personal account for her. And she's like, huh? What? Who? What? Huh? I put that there an hour ago, and what the hell do you mean dip into my own account? There's plenty there. Plenty of what? Oh, you have a personal account that's been open for you for months. Don't you ever look at your finances? I have had a cop salary, which means I have no finances. My personal account has $200 in it. Since last Christmas wiped me out. That would be your professional account. You have your salary automatically transferred. I thought you meant your personal account. I only got one account. No, you have two accounts with the one I opened for you last summer. Do you want to see this log? One damn minute. You opened it for me? What the hell did you do that for? Because we got married. It seemed logical, even normal. Just how much logical, even normal to you? He ran his tongue around his teeth. She was, he knew, well, a woman with a temper, and knew he often thought a Scrooge's sense of pride. I believe, if memory serves, the account was seated with $5 million. That certainly increased due to interest and dividends. What is wrong with you? She didn't punch. He'd been prepared to block a fist. Instead, she all but skewered her fingers through his chest. Jesus, you need a manicure. $5 million. She threw her hands up in the air, flapping around in frustration. What the hell do I want with $5 million? Damn it to hell and back. Rourke, I don't want your money. I don't need your money. You just asked me for $500,000. Okay, marital spat or murder investigation. You choose. So then she calls Louise and offers Louise money for her clinic, to help her clinic, if Louise will do this thing. And Louise does this thing for her and gets injured. So, what happens with the Bowers investigation? What happens with Louise? What happens with McNabb? What happens with Charles? What happens with Whitney and Mira and Somerset and the whole 9 yards? You'll just have to pick up the book for yourself. I've taken up enough of your time. And Let's see. We've got Loyalty and Death next week, and my 5 or 6 copies of Witness in Death the week after that. So if you could please hit the like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. I enjoy the heck out of these books. I really, really do. Have a good one.